What you can see from here is a big one. I wouldn't need many of these to cover the top of the roundhouse. So this is obviously the flesh side, and I've been using a flint scraper to remove all of the connective tissue and fat that was left on it. So you see these areas here, this is where the fat has sat on the surface of the hide and it's been salted on top. That's not really very good news for me when I'm working so hard to tan it, and that in itself ought to be avoided if possible. Creating the scraper itself is a nice and simple exercise. You've got a lump of flint with a flat face. Simply going to turn that over and strike relatively near to the edge. Cast a flake off. Now all we're going to do is from the side that just came off of, separated from the lump of stone in here, we're going to create a nice steady arc. You have to make sure there's no sharp points at each side, because as it pushes back into the skin they can catch you unawares if you're not careful. Also at the back we want to make sure that that's all nice and blunt, because obviously that's the area we're holding onto it. And just check it for teeth. If there are any, you can just simply pressure flake them little points off. The golden rule I've always thought is essential with a scraper is if you wouldn't use it on your own hand, don't use it on there, because you need to be able to draw that across without scoring yourself. Just as when it comes across this hide, that's draining nicely, it's drawing down them tissues, and it's not leaving any negative effects. That one looks like it's going okay. In the first place, what you'll find is that the tissue stretches and stays on the hide, but that's fine. It's just repeated processes that begin to pick that up. Now I quite often get asked, how do you know when you've gone far enough? I would say that that's really down to when the draining stops. The hide itself will start to become like a chamois buff. Perfect time to add the brain on. You can see there's a slight difference here where the fat has been sitting on the surface. So I'm just being a bit steady around there, because I could actually start removing some of the hide itself. It's a bit drier than the rest of the skin, and that's basically because the fat has been stopping the rain getting to the surface. In the main, when I receive a skin personally these days, I don't salt them at all. I get them in the freezer. The trouble with salt is you've got to get rid of it. They're like little rock crystals that sit deep inside the skin, and as soon as the weather changes, your lovely pelts start swelling up with moisture and go a bit rancid. So for me, salt and tanning aren't things that I get on with these days. You can wash it out, but you have to be really thorough. You can see I can put quite a quite a bit of force against this too. See how far the skin is going back. It should take that. When you get near to the edges, things get a little, it's a little bit more vulnerable around the edges. And down here on the rump area, I'm basically on the thickest part of the hide. This is a really thick piece of material, much like up around the neck, and that will take anything you throw at it, basically. See, that's still draining there. And it makes sense to work from the top right down, because then you're not running moisture over a previously worked area. We're coming to a point now where there's relatively little left to drain, and we've fairly thoroughly removed all of the connective tissue on this top corner, and I can actually feel the material behaving slightly differently now. It feels like it grabs the scraper a little harder. You have to be quite careful, because it behaves differently with all the moisture gone, in such a way as if you're going to tear your skin, it's right now that you're going to tear it. So I'm pretty much at a moment. You can also see that what was blue is going white because there's less moisture sitting there. That's the perfect time to start adding your tanning agent, and the agent I'm going to be using is going to be deer brain itself. Taking a better look at the brain itself, best way I can describe it is like a sort of sebaceous fat, and as you crush it, it becomes like a cream, and that will drive into the hide quite easily by itself. So in the first place, we just move it over the surface and give it a good thorough coating, and then we can start driving it into the hide with another tool. Does your hands good as well. There's quite a few takes on brain tanning, and different ways of applying it and mixing it, and different things you can mix it with. As you can see, I'm doing this as a pure brain. It would probably help to soften it if I had mixed it with something like neatsfoot oil, but I'm trying to go for a pure ancient tan form here, so I'm sticking clearly with the brain, and provided I'm prepared to work hard, what I should be able to come up with is a good flexible piece of hide. The kind of things that are worth asking are how long you leave the brain on for. Well, once I've got this driven right in, there's no urgency. So all I need to do is we'll leave the brain in the skin, but we keep driving it and moving it and stretching the hide itself. And while the moisture continues to evaporate from the hide itself, provided I've been active, then I should get a fairly mobile hide from it. But you have to come back to one thing at all times when it comes down to this kind of tanning. Anything other than thorough is going to be a failure. You have to be thorough, you have to be patient, and you have to be prepared to put your back into it. So in other words, you have to kind of try and love it a bit. This section here now has got a good amount of brain on it. But what I have here is I have a section of, this is just a bone, it's camel's leg bone, and what we've done is we've cut down through the centre of that, leaving us a nice, it's not sharp, but it's a good crisp edge on there. The easiest way to handle this for me is to figure eight, and as you do it, make the hide stretch and move, and just keep driving at it. You probably spend 15 minutes on an area like this. Or more. Using this blade in such a way now, as much as I'm stretching, I'm also pushing, so that brain is going into the hide. Think of them as you're pushing, them molecules are opening and the brain's being firmly driven in. When you get to the point where there's not much left, not much moisture left, and you've got your scraper on, as you begin to pull it, you'll notice the bead of water running below it. Stay behind the tip of that. It's not a race. You need to let that drain off. If you just go like that, you'll notice that there's no moisture there. So we'll do that slowly again, and what you'll see is here she comes. The moisture is being forced in such a different way. But also, because you're going slow, you're less likely to get tear outs. And the whole thing, it feels more of a connection to you and the deer skin that you're working on.